Hey, how you doing? Well, this is another tutorial about bail bonds and bail bond process. We'll start off with the most common questions. What is a bail bond? Why is it so complicated sometimes? Why so many restrictions? We're going to try and answer some of those questions here. So I know sometimes we get phone calls, other bail bondsmen get phone calls, and sometimes people get a little annoyed and stuff like that. But so we're going to try to explain a few things about bail bonds. So what is a surety bond? Is what we're going to cover. What is the reason for a bail bond? What are some of the requirements? Do I really need collateral? Why can't I get a refund on my bond? Well, of course, you'll never get one on a bond, but why can't I just put up my car title to get out of jail? Why do I need a cosigner? So let's start out. What is a surety bond? Well, after you get arrested and you see the magistrate, a bond will be set for you by the magistrate, not the bond company. This bond could be a PR bond, could be a low bond, or it could be a high bond. Just depends on your charges, your past criminal history, stuff like that. A bail bond is an insurance policy that guarantees that you will show up to all of your court dates. By Michigan law, the jail is supposed to give you a list of local bail bond companies that are in the area. So if you ever do go to jail or a friend of yours, if there's no list of bail bonds been posted, just ask them. They're supposed to give it to you. So when you start calling around, if a bondsman actually answers the phone, just give him the basic info that he or she needs or whatever they ask for. Like an example, your name, the charges, definitely a good phone number for a friend or relative, not your phone that's sitting in the locker somewhere. Now, calling a bondsman is not free. The bondsmen have to pay for these calls. So they don't want to, to sit there and just hear your whole life story or details of the case. And besides that, don't keep calling them 20 times after that. One phone call is enough. There's different types of bail bonds and costs as well. You got a PR bond, hash or surety 10% bond, and sometimes just straight cash bonds. But they can't be posted by bail bond companies because that's usually like fines or child support bonds. So we can't, bondsmen can't even do those bonds. If you see this chart where it says PR bond, free, no bondsman needed because you don't need one. But the court decides if you're eligible. It's not the bail bond company. And then again, that depends on your past criminal history and stuff like that, which is up to the magistrate. Then you got to cash a surety bond. Now that bond is a straight full bond, not 10%. It's just, if the judge says 15 grand, well, if you don't have 15 grand, you get a bail bondsman, you could pay 1,500, which is not refundable. Sometimes collateral will be needed, and every now and then, maybe not. Again, it goes by case by case. Now, the best deal is when a judge gives you cash 30 or 10% bond. Now, you get like a 75% discount right off the top. And that's because you got to take the full bill and you divide by four. So if it's a $20,000 bond, you break that down, it's only going to be 5 grand. So you'll be paying 500, 600 bucks, something like that, depending on the company, the area, and all the other stuff. And collateral, again, may be needed. It goes by case. A quick example of a bail bond process. When the magistrate gives you $10,000 bond with no 10%. So then you better start thinking of someone that has 1,000 bucks. Because remember, it says no 10%. So you call the bondsman and you give that bondsman a phone number to somebody that's got some money. Don't give it to your bar friend that's completely broke. Because it's not going to do you any good. So you better pick somebody worth it. Now, step two, the bondsman will call your family member to discuss your release, or it could be your girlfriend or whatever the case may be. Let them do the talking for you. Then your bondsman will meet with your family member. They'll collect the money, fill out some, contractual paperwork, so they get you out of jail. Then step three, you're also going to have to fill out some bail bond contract, go over your bond conditions, maybe take a picture. They might take a picture of you. Some do. I've heard of bondsmen that actually don't do that, which is um, that's pretty different actually. But so the main thing is don't miss any court dates. That's the whole gist of all of this. And then when your case is over, sentence, inform your bondsman when your case is over. Really not, it's not that hard. Restrictions, requirements, and collateral. Now, now let's go over some basic requirements about a bail bond policy and why some bonds have tight requirements. Well, bail bond companies are private, family owned, and operated businesses. This means the bond companies have family and business expenses to pay for. Some bondsmen own, you know, houses, cars, boats, hunting property, kids to go to school, whatever. This is not, these businesses are not run by the state. Okay. It's not a corporation like Myers, Walmart, stuff like that. So these are just regular privately owned businesses. So if someone jumps bond, the bond company has to pay the court for that bond, which of course we don't want to, but we'd have to if it comes down to it. So which in turn, your co-signer has to pay the bond company back via either a voluntary payment, civil suits. They could lose their collateral that they put up. Oh, it's a big mess. So don't jump bail. Because this is why bounty hunters go out and try to find the bail jumper before all of these expenses incur. So our bounty hunters want to get the guy quick or girl and get them put in jail quick before it turns into a big mess. And then we'll cover why some bonds need collateral and why some bonds are rejected. So here we got a little chart. Collateral versus risk. It's not perfect, but it gives you a general idea. So when we call your family member or your family member calls us, we will ask them a few questions, just like at car insurance. Year, make, model. Do you have any DUIs on your record? Blah blah blah. So a first-time offender with a small bond, let's say 5 grand, it's just a DUI. The guy's employed. Co-signer is also employed. The guy does not live, on a couch surfing from friend to friend, house to house, motel to motel. He lives in the area. Chances are probably no collateral is going to be needed. Now you can jump over to say somebody that's a fourth habitual offender with a $20,000 bond for meth possession, which you already know is high risk. That person's unemployed. He lives at a friend's house, couch surfing. The co-signer's on SSI or there's no job or whatever, very low paid job. He lives about 2 hours away, and it could also be closer. So that collateral is going to be at least $20,000, maybe more, will be required on that bond because it's a high risk bond. Besides, I mean, the charges, the bond's a lot higher. It doesn't have a steady house, doesn't have a job, stuff like that. So we got to get collateral from the co-signer that's going to back that bond up. So if he jumps bail, we could take that collateral, sell it, and pay off the bond. Why do bounty hunters charge money? Well, bounty hunters have to supply their own equipment, vehicle, gas, their own time, etc. So nothing is free. Time and gas cost money. Bounty hunters work for a private owner bond company, which is they're all privately owned. So and not they don't work for the courts or the state. So they don't get, a free car, free squad car, free gas card. They don't get paid overtime if it's 2 o'clock in the morning. No, they don't do that. So they have to use all their own expenses to fine you. So it could, It can cost money after a while. Like I said, they have to use their own vehicle. Now, depending on how long it takes to find the bond jumper, the price can go up. So if they get lucky and find the guy the first night out, that's good. But they got to go out every weekend for 5 weekends straight. You better believe it's going to cost more. And the co-signer is one that's responsible for this fee. I just put up my car title to get out of jail. Well, I've never heard of any bondsman doing this. At least it's not the norm, or regulated by the bail bond industry. Now, maybe in the past, some guy went to jail, and maybe he did give a bondsman a title to get out of jail. Probably back a few years ago. I don't know. And then he decided to tell everyone that that's how it's done. No, it's not. No, it's not. So that is not the norm. Maybe the bondsman just knew the guy very well. I don't know really. But example is, if you're calling around for car insurance on your car and you finally get a good price, do you ask them if you could just accept an RV or a boat title for your new car insurance policy? I'm sure they will say no. So here's some more quick facts. A bond company does not have to post your bond. Remember, it's a private business, so it's best to call around if you need to. Now, money paid to a bondsman is not refundable. We've been through this many times. The co-signer is responsible for all costs associated with the bond if you skip court. That's the full bail, bounty hunting fees, attorney fees, bill collector fees, process serving, all that stuff goes into play. If you live out of state, okay, chances are a buying company posting your bond is going to be very, very slim. So you go out of state to Florida on vacation, you do something stupid. Well, you better have a lot of money because you might be sitting there a while. Because not too many bail bond companies are going to post your bond if you live in Michigan. Something to think about. All right. Hopefully, you don't have any more questions about bonds. I hope this covered at least the basics. Other than that, thank you for taking the time to watch this tutorial.